welcome back. It's week number 5, so let's go ahead and dive right into what has transpired this week. So as far as progress goes, as far as fat loss, I'm definitely, trickling down. I'm down right around a half a pound on the average this week, which is, what my pace should be and is what I'm aiming for. So, that's going really well. So I haven't really had to change, macros. I haven't had to change cardio or anything like that. Basically, the original game plan or the original, macros and cardio I set up, from the very start of the prep, it's doing its thing. I have good momentum going. So, there's no reason for me to change anything just yet. I don't need to get more aggressive at this point because I'm basically hitting my target, of losing right around that half pound a week. So that's flowing really well. The only thing now that I'm experiencing, like this is definitely the toughest week. I should say as of Wednesday of this week, things started to get a little bit more challenging and difficult. And the reason I say that is I can tell now that I'm starting to accumulate a lot of that fatigue that comes with contest prep. When you're in a deficit and when your performance in the weight room keeps moving up, your recovery, at least for me anyways, gets more challenged. So that's kind of where I'm at. And, looking in hindsight, when I started this prep and when I set up my training programming, I was coming off of a 5 and 6 day split from the off season. So I took the last week off of the year during the Christmas holidays. I took that week off to rest up, give myself a break. I had some aches and pains that I wanted to see if I can, give some rest and see if I can get those healed up. So when I started out, the prep, I went to a 3-day split, with the theory of, okay, if I'm training 3 days per week, I'm going to get 4 good recovery days in there, and then therefore, when I am training, I should have good energy and I should perform pretty well. And that's been the case, up until midweek this week. So for 4.5 weeks, it worked really well, really well. Like every single week, I was either, adding a little bit to the bar or picking up a rep here or there. And I slowly started to, increase my volume over the last 4.5 weeks. Well, actually, I'm completed right now. Today, I already completed the last workout. So through 5 weeks, I've actually, increased volume just about every single week. And I think the total volume is up about 6,000 or 7,000 pounds from week 1 to now in comparison to this week. So volume is definitely up. Body weight's definitely gone down. So I'm in a deficit. So it's just like there's a lot of demand now and there's not a lot of supply. So the recovery is starting to take a hit. Midweek on Wednesday, just had a terrible workout. It was just a real bad workout, and my deadlifts were off. Like the form, it wasn't as pristine as it usually is. And the load just felt like extremely heavy. It felt like a ton of bricks. So it was just a tough workout, and then I had carryover effect from that. So that night I felt really tired, really beat up, and then on Thursday, yesterday, I felt even worse. Like my lower back was extremely sore. I wasn't injured, but it was so beat up from that session that it was extremely sore, and just lethargic. Like I didn't want to move around too much. I was grumpy and irritable. I mean, just ask my wife, she knows. I had to apologize because I was just so out of it. So I know fatigue is definitely accumulated, and from a programming standpoint, I made the mistake from the get-go that I probably should have programmed my deload to come in the 4th week or the 5th week, like this week, versus the 6th week, which is next week. So that way, if I would have programmed it earlier, I would have stayed ahead of the curve when it comes to my fatigue levels. So my next block of training, I'm definitely going to deload on the 4th week. So I'm going to have my deload week next week to finish off block 1. When I start my new block, that deload is going to come in the 4th week. And in theory, the reason I want to move that deload up is to stay ahead of the curve when it comes to fatigue levels. Like right now, I'm feeling beat up. Like right now, I just feel like I have to fix this. So it's like, okay, I'm refeeding on the weekend. That'll help. I'm deloading next week, so that'll kind of cure things. But what I really want to do is to prevent myself from getting from this point again. So that's why I want to stay ahead of the curve with those deloads. And I think a lot of times people make the mistake, the same mistake I'm making, where they wait. They take the deload when they feel beat up versus taking it to prevent that or to stay ahead of the curve, like I mentioned earlier. So it's really important that, moving forward, I really make it a point to stay ahead of the curve with those deloads in the program. I'm probably like, I think every 4th week makes the most sense right now. And you factor in that, moving forward as the weeks progress, I'm going to keep getting leaner. And that deficit, I may potentially have to lower the calories or add in more cardio down the road. And if that's the case, and I know my performance in the weight room is going to slowly, trickle up, maybe not as fast as the first 5 weeks, but it's probably going to, see some spurts here and there where I improve my performance. That's more demand. And if there's more demand there, and if I'm losing more weight and the calories are coming down, and if I'm doing a little bit more cardio, yeah, that's going to be even. There's just, like I said, not enough supply. A lot of demand going, but not enough supply. So really managing that fatigue is huge. So it's going to be important for me to deload, every 4th week. It's going to be important for me to not overreach on the intensity levels, like my RPs don't go to failure too often. It's going to be important for me to make sure that I'm getting good sleep, and then that can be an issue with prep. As food levels come down, the leaner you get, it's harder to get a good night's rest. So need to make sure that I'm doing things that they'll ensure that I'm doing everything I can to make, I should say, recovery as optimal as possible. Because if the recovery is not there, your performance in the gym can suffer. And if your performance in the gym suffers, then you can just basically kiss your muscle mass goodbye, because that's the driver when it comes to getting on stage. It's your training. That should be the priority. If you're performing well throughout your prep, if your performance improves or at the very least maintains through the prep, you're gonna increase your chances of putting a nice full looking physique on stage. So that's really important that I manage my fatigue levels. And so now, of course, looking in hindsight, it's so easy to spot what is probably a bit more optimal. But when you're game planning, you can use theory, but until you actually get in there in the trenches and run it and get that experience, you truly don't know the answer until you go through it. So that's kind of where I'm at now. It's like made a little bit of an error there, a week late on that deload, but I'll be sure to fix that moving forward. But other than that, yeah, like I said, it's just a kind of a good and bad week at the same time. Started out good, now it's kind of ending on a it's not over yet, but I'm feeling kind of beat up here midweek, and then I still have tomorrow and Sunday to refeed. So I'm pretty sure that I'll be taking maybe a little bit higher refeeds. So probably in the neighborhood of like 50 fat, 500 carbs, right around 180 grams of protein for 2 days. And I'll probably feel a lot better. I know I'll look better. Like I'll probably top my glycogen back out. I'll look fuller. I'll probably look a little harder. I know some people, when they have big refeeds, it might spill over, but I have a feeling that I'm going to look harder just because I'm that depleted right now. And yeah, it's going to set up next week perfectly, because next week's a deload. So I'll start the week off nice and full, and then I won't be tapping in so much in the weight room. I'll tone things down, and the way I'm going to run the deload is I'm simply just going to take one set off of every exercise. I'll probably keep my loads roughly about the same RPE, but I'll just lower the volume down by one set, and that will be good enough. So 3 days of training, you're reducing the volume down, having 4 recovery days, I should be good. And then the following week, we get back in there and we start grinding on another week and try to overreach a little bit. So other than that, yeah, life is good, family's good, can't really complain. But yeah, I'm going to leave it here. Hope you guys have a great week, and we'll talk more next week.